Steve Harvey, how hard is it to read this card? It's pretty straightforward to any English speaker. You read from left to right and from top to bottom. The card is idiot proof. All you have to do is read it exactly the way that it's written. If you rehearsed for Miss Universe, you would know that you have second runner-up, first runner-up, and then you have Miss Universe. How did you mess this moment up? Now, I'm seeing online, people are trying to defend them. People are saying, well, it was a teleprompter's fault. It was an honest mistake. People don't understand the severity of what happened. I saw that it was a Snapchat posted by Steve Harvey or someone that was recording. And in the Snapchat, he said that the teleprompter was to blame. But in the actual video of the event, which I do have, but I'll play it a little bit later, he says that it says it right on the card that Colombia was the first runner-up, and he read from the card. Does he know that first runner-up does not mean that you are Miss Universe? Did he not read the whole card? Did he not rehearse? I don't understand. And it's a very, very deep issue. Very deep. People don't even understand how deep it is. Because Miss Universe is a pageant that involves the whole world. There are very few events in the world that involve the whole world, where the whole world participates. You're talking about the Olympics. You're talking about the World Cup. It's very few events that involve the whole world. And these, the different countries that have pageants, like, for example, Miss USA in the United States, you may have Miss Norway, Miss Sweden, Miss Ghana, Miss Togo, Benin, Miss Nigeria, Miss Angola, Miss Ukraine, etc. Those pageants are handled by the promoters in different countries that they are in, but they are also handled by the state. The state has a hand in it because they want to capitalize on the publicity. They may not necessarily have money in the game all the time. Sometimes they may, sometimes they may not. But they most definitely want to get the publicity, especially for smaller countries, third world countries. I personally have done some work for a Miss Universe winner, Miss Layla Lopez, in 2011 for the country of Angola. I did some work for a client of mine, and he was out of the Angolan consulate in Houston, Texas. So this is a worldwide thing. This ain't no small meeting. This ain't no small thing. These girls, when they win these pageants, when they go on the pageants, they have to be sponsored. They have to have people that help them to be able to get to different places. Like, you can't just travel around the world for free. You have to have sponsors. You got to have people that pay, and there needs to be a reason why they pay. It's something that involves the whole world. When you have 100 countries watching, each country wants to have a good representative, someone who can paint the country in a good way. And it's very important that the pageant goes off without a hitch. Now, Steve Harvey made a very big mistake. This ain't something you just do and think that it's okay. People are trying to say that people are being racist against Steve Harvey. It's like, look, man, now at the time for being so race conscious and race sensitive. This is way bigger than Steve Harvey. This is way bigger than just a mistake or somebody being upset, because it involves a lot of different parties. It involves countries all over the world. It involves a lot of different companies. And really, the whole thing behind this, the reason why this happened, I'm going to get into after I go ahead and show the video. Roll it.
This morning, everyone will be talking about the big mistake at the Miss Universe pageant from last night. Host Steve Harvey read the wrong name. It all came down to Miss Colombia and Miss Philippines. Miss Colombia stood on stage for about 2 minutes while the crowd cheered her on, but then painfully, a few moments later, Steve Harvey came back out with this confession.
Okay, folks, I have to apologize. The first runner-up is Colombia.
And with that, the crown went to its rightful winner, Miss Philippines.
So you see what happened. He read the wrong name off the card. And she had the crown on for a while. I think they said 4 minutes. She had the crown on for a while. She thought she had won. Their respective countries, you know, from the Philippines and Colombia, were both celebrating or upset. Now all of a sudden you just change it. It looks like boxing where it's corrupt. Here's the thing. Steve Harvey had no business being there to begin with. All of this can be traced back to one Mr. Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump used to own Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss Universe, which he would host on NBC. I'm not quite sure when the pageant came into existence, but I know he had it since 2002. Now, when he started to run for president and he made the whole, remember the whole thing about Mexicans being rapists, et cetera, et cetera. There was a big fallout from Univision, and Univision said that they weren't going to run the Miss USA pageant, which was coming up. And that was a big kerfuffle at that point, because they had to scramble to find a different television network to host it, because Univision said they would literally not show it just days before the actual pageant was to happen. And at that point, NBC said, okay, we're going to cut ties with Donald Trump, which, by the way, is interesting since he hosted SNL recently. I'm not sure how that works. Anyway, they said they're going to cut ties with Donald Trump. So what Donald Trump did was purchase the 50% of Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss Universe that NBC owned. And he owned the entire thing 100% for about 3 days. Then he sold it to a friend of his named Ari Emanuel of IMG. So they're the people that actually host it now, and they run it on Fox rather than NBC, which is where it was before Donald Trump sold it. Before that whole thing happened, you had different people that were co-hosts and or the main hosts who dropped out of hosting Miss USA when that was going to air on NBC, when NBC said, okay, we're going to cut ties. That's when Univision, that's when the whole thing was going on. And I think most of these women may be Latina or have Latina descent some kind of way. You had Jenny May, Rosalind Sanchez, and Cheryl Burke, who all backed out. Rosalind Sanchez actually came back. She did host this year's Miss Universe along with Perez Hilton, but Jenny May and Cheryl Burke did not come back. I'll post the links in the description box below so you can see the story of each individual woman, what happened, what they did, why did they do it, etc. And I post their pictures right here so you can see how they look, and I'll label them. And then you had the infamous situation where Donald Trump threw out Mr. Jorge Ramos, who is probably the biggest news personality in Mexico. Jorge Ramos is like what Brian Williams was before the whole lion situation. A very big anchor in Mexico. But to many in the political world, he's like a Mexican activist. During a press conference, Mr. Ramos was heckling Donald Trump and being loud and trying to talk out of turn to get a question asked and answered from Donald Trump. Trump was like, hey, yeah, wait your turn. Jorge wouldn't take no for an answer. And Trump had Jorge Ramos removed by security. And when he was removed during that process, Trump told Mr. Ramos to go back to Univision. And now at that point, that's when Univision had dropped Trump's Miss USA for the Mexican comments. And they had it was a lawsuit pending with Univision for $500 million. I'm not sure if the lawsuit is still pending or if it has been settled. But this is the background why you would have a different company that is not Donald Trump and NBC. You have WME-IMG, and this is why you don't have. This is why you have Steve Harvey. I'm sure there have been plenty of other people that were in contention that did not want to participate because of the whole Donald Trump aura to it, and there were other people who were involved before who are not in it anymore. So what you have is somebody that is not used to doing anything like this, and someone who may not understand the severity of it, someone who may not be geographically inclined or understand how pageants work. And I'll post a picture right here of the tweet that Steve Harvey posted immediately afterwards to show his apologies. Now, I'm not trying to joke on the man or nothing like that, but this kind of points to him not really understanding what's going on or how serious this is. This is an international event. It involves many countries. It's televised live in over 100 countries, which you see before you. Again, I did some work for Miss Layla Lopez, and I also did some work for Valmara Rebello. She was Miss Angola 2013. I did a poster that you can see on the left, and on the right, this is her signing the poster. And this was at an event in Houston, Texas. You know, she has on a uniform. She has on the country's colors, which is yellow, red, and black. It's very serious. It's not a game. This is not just some beauty pageant like a local talent show. It involves many countries. It happens over happens over a year because you have different pageants going on locally. Sometimes you have people appointed by the state to represent their country. It's almost on the level of the Olympics and the World Cup as far as the importance to each individual country as a collective. Oh, and there was also one more thing. It was a big accident that happened. As a footnote, I think it's unrelated to this, but it just so happened to happen right outside the hotel where the Miss Universe pageant was going on. You had a woman who may have had a child in the car, ran up on the sidewalk on the strip right in front of Planet Hollywood, injured 37 people, killed one, and I think 7 are still in critical condition. You know, people across the world are looking at this. It's like, what's going on? You got this man who can't read, apparently. You got people crashing into people on the strip. Like, what is going on with America? And it points to the general dysfunction of the country. You got Donald Trump, who is a gift and a curse. You got him waking up conservatives, but at the same time, he's creating situations like this to happen at the pageant where you got people who are inexperienced working, which winds up creating an international embarrassment. And you have an accident that just happens to happen at the same time. And that's being broadcast around the world too, because right now the world is looking, and you have to ask yourself, what is the world thinking about us? That's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace.